Educators Amplified, 1510 AM WRRD. My name is Earl Ingram. I'm going to be part host of this special event.
I'm going to actually move on to our second question. My name is Tanya Lohr. I am a teacher at West Bend West High School. I'm a social studies teacher. And my question will address the topic of the growing teacher exodus and the negative effects of dropping standards for teachers in an attempt to fix it. Wisconsin is experiencing a dramatic loss of educators due to bad working conditions, declining compensation, and loss of professional respect. Our current governor and legislature believe that the solution to the growing teacher shortage is to lower standards for entering and remaining in the profession, such that people can now become teachers in Wisconsin with absolutely no post-secondary education in teaching and no student teaching or other residency. What will you do to address the exodus of teachers from the profession and reestablish high standards for entering and remaining in the field of education?
There's no question that teachers are fleeing. More veteran teachers are leaving early. Fewer young people are showing an interest in entering the profession by going into teacher training. That sets up our state for disaster in our schools. And there are root causes. Part of it is compensation and the feeling that teachers have been devalued and disrespected. That's got to be addressed. Act 10 is not a sustainable policy for our state. It will lead to ruin. And then part of it is teachers being put in situations within increasingly unmanageable environments. We've got to lower class sizes and provide the support staff necessary to effectively manage those classrooms and allow good teaching to occur. And then part of it is the fact that teachers are forced to teach to the test and engage in this testing fetish that we have. All of that has created a demoralized workforce in our schools. And the response to that has been to say, okay, let's open new paths to entering the profession where you don't even have to have teacher training or in classroom experience. That's a disaster. Instead, we should address the root causes of the demoralization. And our own Department of Public Instruction has participated in opening those paths to teacher licensing without the proper professional training and without the practice teaching. That is not the right course. Instead, let's deal with the root causes of demoralized teachers, and that's compensation and disrespect.
Yep.
All right.
And create a good classroom environment for them.
Thank you. Maylon?
I don't want anybody teaching my kids that does not have at least a bachelor's degree in teaching. We need to make teachers feel good about teaching again. Act 10 obviously was a huge detriment to that. But you're seeing teachers that don't, and when school districts don't have local control, they're not able to pay for essential services. So you have a place like Solon Springs, or where me and Governor Walker come from, Delavan, Darien, where they're closing actually down Darien Elementary School because they had a referendum that didn't pass, and now they have to close down the school. So we are doing a disservice to education when we're pitting teachers versus school districts versus the superintendent and the principal. And at the end of the day, we all should care about the same thing, and that is the education of our children. The greatest commodity that we have in this state is our children, and their greatest currency is their education. So if we don't take care of them, then what the hell are we doing? So I will tell you this. We should not lead by having referendums to take care of schools. We should bring back the $1.6 billion that the governor took away in 2012 and 13. And we should restore that, and we should restore local control back to school districts so they know what's best actually for teaching their children. And that's what I would do as your governor.
Let me start out by saying this. The first thing that's got to be done by any governor, is repeal Act 10. Because if we don't repeal Act 10, much of what you've described in the demoralization of teachers and the attack on education is because teachers don't have collective bargaining. Restoring that alone, not just for compensation, but for working conditions, will go a long way. Number two, this business of dumbing down licensing, and it's not just happening in the education department, there's proposing it for electricians, plumbers, and everything else, is simply dead wrong. I want to see good, stringent licensing agreements just like we have now. It's the greatest protection for both teachers and the quality of education. And third, most people don't know this, but related to this is there a Republican proposal in the legislature now to have teachers inform on one another if they talk to a student for a non-educational purpose, for violating boundaries, and I'm not talking about physical boundaries, I'm talking about subjective ideas the Republican Party has about what's appropriate for teachers and not. This is becoming like the Soviet Union in the 1960s. This Republican Party is destroying education. I do not say that lightly. This governor left college under humiliating circumstances, and he has devoted his career to attacking and dismantling the greatest university system in the world and attacking and humiliating teachers. And I'm not going to put up with that, and that includes full funding for public education, not private education, not only restoring what he took out, all of it, but increasing it. And number two, deferring to teachers, restoring their morale, stopping this business of shuffling around and people will bid on a math teacher, they don't want somebody else. That's all going to stop when we restore collective bargaining.
Thanks, Tanya, for that question. I think there has been some media coverage about how students are actually shifting away from education as a major. They don't want to pursue that as a career because they don't see a future in it. As a result of Act 10 and some of the other changes. But there hasn't been a lot of coverage about the retention issue, which I think is a real crisis in teaching because we're not losing just potential teachers, we're losing teachers with years in the classroom, our most experienced teachers. And of course that has a tremendous impact on their would-be students, but also on the teachers who are going into the fields and don't have those relationships, those really important mentorship and professional development relationships that we need. So I think it's frankly offensive to say to teachers that it's actually too hard to become a teacher, and so we should just create a fast track, an easy way that you can check a box and become a teacher and go into the classroom. Teaching is a skill. It's a skill that is probably one of the most challenging that there is, and I say that as a lawyer, like I could become a lawyer like that. I don't think I could be a teacher. So I think we need to keep standards high, respect teachers, and give them the autonomy back into the classroom. Teachers are the professionals. They are the ones who should be making decisions about instructional methods, about curriculum. They should have a much greater voice in what goes on in the classrooms and in the broader schools than they do. And it shouldn't be politicians dictating what happens in the classroom or providing these alternative avenues, especially ones that might be fly-by-night private operations that really don't have the interests of students at heart, but they just want to make a quick buck.
Anyway, we have to roll back several things that Scott Walker has done. And first of all is the ABCTE law that they passed. It's a diploma mill out of Georgia, where you just have to pay a fee and essentially you become a teacher. And I'll tell you, it makes me cry when we have to give licenses to those people because it's a joke. But we can roll that back. I don't think there's anybody in the legislature that will have thought that through. We will get rid of that law. I can guarantee you that. The other thing that we've done, and this is proactive, we can complain about all we want about the past, but I have been working on creating student organizations at the high school level called Educator Rising, which we're getting young people earlier and earlier thinking about the teaching profession. We have worked with our teachers across the state of Wisconsin with WEAC also to create teacher leadership summits where we bring people together and figure out ways to get a better teacher voice in the profession. So we can do some things in some horrible times. I don't want anybody in the room to think that we aren't really working forward in some real positive ways. But there are some things that were passed in the legislation last time that we can get rid of, and the ABCTE, which actually gives on Black Friday, where we had all the sales, they actually had a sale on teacher licenses. Think about how obnoxious and horrible that is. We can change that, Tanya.